thank you, Chairman Lummis. And I wanted to first start with Dr. Mason, and I appreciate you appearing today as the minority witness. I want to take a minute to touch on a critical part of the laboratory workforce that may often be overlooked, and that's the construction and maintenance workers. And it's essential to have dedicated, trained maintenance workers who understand the challenges of a day-to-day work that is conducted at our national laboratories. And my question for you, Dr. Mason, is what you can tell me about what we can do to ensure that we're protecting these valuable employees and ensure that they're paid a prevailing wage and that laboratories are not going around Davis-Bacon requirements or using temporary workers to not have to comply with prevailing wage laws.
Well, first, any construction project that we undertake is subject to Davis-Bacon, and so we go through the Davis-Bacon determination to determine what's covered work, and then the covered work is subject to the prevailing wage requirements. So that's built into how we do construction projects. In terms of the ongoing maintenance, which is not Davis-Bacon, I can speak to Oak Ridge. Maybe my colleague could speak to how things are at NREL, but about 15% of our workforce is the crafts, and they are represented by the Atomic Trades and Labor Council. We have a collective bargaining agreement with them, and in fact, the wages that we pay are in fact, probably slightly above the prevailing wage level that would apply if it were Davis-Bacon work, as in the case of a construction project. And you're absolutely right. Every element of our workforce is critical to getting the job done. And I would note that, as I mentioned, in preparing to deal with the budget constraints we've been looking hard at our wages and our benefits. And in fact, as all of the labs went through this period with the pay freeze that's been experienced in the Federal system, of course, that did not apply to collective bargaining agreements, but we were able to reach agreement with the ATLC where they undertook exactly the same austerity measures that applied to all of the other staff because of the recognition that it was important to protect jobs. So I think we have a very strong relationship, and all our employees are paid at rates that are market competitive. That's actually one of the benefits of the GOCO model.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mason. Also, and for Dr. Arvizu, how are the national laboratories working with private industry? And what I mean is, can you describe the process for a private company to begin working in an unclassified way with a national laboratory, and what can we do to expedite this process to increase the technology transfer?
So there are a number of mechanisms that we use, and Dr. Mason has mentioned a few of those. The one that we use mostly is the technical services agreement, because they're very, very quick, and they allow us to essentially put agreements in place in less than 2 weeks, and essentially that's what we do. Those are agreements that don't have intellectual property sorts of expectations, and so that doesn't need to be negotiated necessarily. The workhorse of our agreements, though, is the Cooperative Research and Development Agreement, and we have a number of those. The way industry comes in is they can come in under a number of different pathways. They can cost share research with us. They can do a total funds-in research opportunity. They can be part of a DOE solicitation program that ultimately ends up in a cooperative agreement. But we have standard agreements that can be executed very quickly. We have others that, if there needs to be tailored negotiation terms, take a bit longer. So it's in that method of trying to get to the most flexible items possible that there's opportunity for improvement.
Great.
So the ACT is one of those.
Thank you, Dr. Arvizu. And quickly, Mr. Stepp, one of the recommendations is that Congress allow the labs to charge a market rate, which I think is an interesting idea, but I'm concerned that this could crowd out smaller, more innovative ideas that don't necessarily have funding behind them, users that don't have the funding behind them. And do you fear that unintended consequence? Or intended consequence? I hope not. But
no, I don't think that's an intended consequence. No, I don't necessarily fear. I think there's a concern, a larger concern that, say, smaller businesses are currently unable to work with the labs in a large way. And so I think what the charging a market rate allows is actually provides an incentive for the labs to do more of this type of collaborative work with industry, so they'll have more of an opportunity to work with those smaller entities. I think there are other recommendations in the report and elsewhere that would actually help smaller entities work with the labs. I think that, so it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think that adding that market incentive broadens the abilities of the labs to work with them, but there has to be complementary policies that go along with it to help the smaller entities.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. Dr. Mason, other government agencies, universities, industrial laboratories are regulated under OSHA as far as workplace health and safety conditions, and DOE is unique in maintaining its own environmental safety and health infrastructure for its national laboratories. Do you believe that the safety and productivity of DOE's national laboratories may be better served by shifting and moving the labs to OSHA regulation rather than regulation by the Department itself, and if so, why?
This is actually a topic that the National Lab Directors Council has looked at in the past, and we have recommended that this should be something the Department would seriously consider, because we do believe there is an opportunity for cost savings. And I think the thing that one needs to be very clear on is we are absolutely committed to world-class safety performance in our institutions. So we are not talking about backing away from safety or watering down requirements. It's really a question of what's the most cost-effective way to achieve that safe workplace. You know, if you look at many of the safest places to work in America today are top-performing companies that are regulated by OSHA, and I believe there is no reason that we can't achieve that same thing, just as we do now in the current self-regulated environment that DOE operates.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mason. Thank you.
May I add a little preamble to that, or post-amble to that? One of the problems that we've looked at that problem before is that OSHA will not take on that responsibility without the facilities of the DOE being in compliance with their requirements. And when it was examined last time, there was over $100 million of investments required in order to get into compliance so that that could actually happen. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that that's a barrier to actually implementing that particular type of a structure, which I agree with. It's just hard to do unless we have the infrastructure investments required to bring our facilities up to compliance conditions.
Great. Thank you.